talent acquisition advisor at Beazley. For a little background, I've been in recruiting for about 7 years now, and I have experience with everything from people's first jobs out of college up to global division heads. I'm joined today by Melanie Collins, our early careers manager, and Daniel Jones, one of our underwriters who came up through our P28 program as a career change. I'll start out with my portion of the business. While I sit in the US, I do hire for both US and UK positions. I cover a breadth of openings as far as skill set and tenure, but I do spend a lot of time with our entry level skill set. At Beasley, we do promote a lot from within, so I am backfilling a lot of those entry level positions for college grads or people who are looking to make a career switch. I do get asked pretty often, what do I look for in a resume for that? And the thing is, a lot of the times it's obvious things that are on the surface, like do you have the skills that are listed in the job description? But what's under the surface is what makes my job really interesting, and that's where those skills actually come from. I never want somebody to be discouraged from applying to a position if they think it doesn't have like the perfect match, because being in TA, there are a lot of stories that don't end up in a resume, and that's where my job really comes in. So, of course, I can't interview every applicant that we have, but there are so many transferable skills that could make someone great in insurance. How do you work in a team? Have you ever taken over a project? Is your career up to this point entirely different? And how does that translate? So I can speak about myself in particular for that. I spent 6 years recruiting engineers. Very different kind of skill set. I was working with places like NASA and Mitsubishi Power. I hadn't touched insurance beyond my own insurance, what I have over here in the US in a professional capacity. But with the base skills, I was able to learn about the industry, still learning about it. I'm only about a year in, and figure out the ins and outs that way. So I do hire a lot of individuals into our roles who are coming out of college, who have maybe worked in grocery stores or restaurants, because the skills of being able to work under pressure, work with customers are so easy to translate over into some of our positions. It gives me an opportunity to learn the business. It gives them an opportunity to learn the business and really grow in their career. I know Danny will be able to tell you about his own experience a little bit later on, which is really interesting about how he switched. But for now, I'll go ahead and turn it over to our early careers manager, Melanie.
Jeez, you have to unmute her right quick.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to meet you. I am Melanie Collins. I'm the Global Early Careers Manager for Beasley, and I've been here for right at 2 months now. My previous career path, I've actually also switched careers as well and have had that experience. So when I finished university, I actually began my career as a financial analyst at a bank. And I ultimately ended up moving into the early career space as a person who actually was going on campus and assisting with the recruiting process for the program. And something just clicked. It really was just the right fit for me. And so since then, I've worked at a variety of different organizations, primarily in their early careers functions, but I've also had some other roles within HR. From banking, I actually switched over and I actually worked in the university itself in the career services office, and actually had an opportunity to actually help various students kind of determine what they wanted as a career path, the direction that they were going. Also helped introduce employers into the university and foray into how to best connect with various students at various levels across all different majors. That included primarily liberal arts, all the way from kind of your traditional university student all the way through those who were seeking PhDs. And then from there, I actually worked for a consulting firm and had an opportunity to help them recruit not only consultants, but also accountants. So I've had the business experience. Then I switched over into oil and gas and have had the opportunity to recruit and hire engineers and structure programs for both them as interns as well as full-time hires. That also included a variety of other business-oriented roles, everything from traders to geophysicists as well. So have touched a lot of different organizations, a lot of different industries. And then my most recent opportunity prior to Beazley, I actually was at Amazon, where I was the recruiting manager for the Ring and Blink doorbell brands and had a global role there. As I've progressed through my career, I have found that the transferable skills that you are able to gain and continue to leverage um, have just made all of the difference in the world. And there's just that innate curiosity and desire to learn and help that have really allowed me to catapult into a variety of different areas, including being here in insurance, where I have absolutely no background, but have had a great time just already trying to learn as much as possible, bring some new insights and some new ideas, but also really being open to asking questions and continually learning even at 15 plus years into my career path. I'm still focusing on those opportunities to learn and do something different every day and focus on learning not only from those folks who are my managers, but my peers, even the individuals who report to me. So, as the manager of the P28 program, which actually stands for Project 28, which is our accelerated underwriting program. And Danny will give you more insight there. But essentially, as the manager of that program, I am literally learning every day from every member of that cohort, as well as my entire team that sits in the UK. I did not have familiarity with the UK recruiting process. I learned from them daily, and it's just a great way to make sure that you're always freshening up your skills, but that every opportunity that you have to interact with someone is a chance for you to be able to have a great impact on them, but also for them to have a fantastic impact on you and what's next for you in your career path and in your goals. So, with that, I will turn it over to Danny.
Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Jones, but you can call me Danny. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for everyone that's on this call from different time zones. I'm from Stone Mountain, Georgia. I went to the University of Georgia. I also was newer to insurance. I joined the P28 program a little bit later. Most people joined right after college. I was a forestry major. That was my background. I'm currently a commercial property underwriter, and it's kind of funny. A lot of people stumble in insurance, as you heard from Melanie and Emily. But in one way or shape or form, your background will still, whatever you do, if it's different, it still plays a role in insurance. So I was a forestry major. Now I'm in property. I still look at environmental factors and everything, and we'll get into that later. But I was season 6 of P28. We refer to ourselves as seasons. And it's great. I know there'll be plenty of questions later, but P28 it was a great experience for me. It gave me an opportunity to change career paths and see what insurance has to offer. And there's a lot of great opportunities, networking, and it's a small connected network. So yes, so that's me. I currently in Chicago, a part of the central region of Beasley. So yeah.
So I figured we would honestly end up having a lot more questions than talking time, just because I figured that's what I usually get is I'll tell people about Beasley and then if they ask how to get into it. So I guess we can start there too. And Danny, I'd love to hear your perspective. The way that I talk about Beasley is we are specialty insurance. It's the things you wonder how that's been insured. So I know Mel's got a favorite example. I'm going to pull it out now. One of mine is that we used to insure David Beckham's legs when he was a soccer player. We insured Beyonce's jewels when she was in the Super Bowl. We do things like the Olympics, and we hire for everything. So I know we're kind of being insurance specific here, which makes you think underwriting claims, but I hire for finance, IT, HR, data management, business analytics, anything along those lines. Now, Melanie does focus in underwriting and claims for our internship in P28. But Danny, could you tell us a little bit about your experience in P28, like learning about the different verticals and that kind of thing?
Yes, I can. So P28 was my first introductory to insurance. To me, I think of the program almost like it's a accelerated master's program, and it is accelerated in terms of getting you up to speed to become an underwriter. Now, with that being said, the great thing about P28 and the great thing about Beasley is we're a very collaborative company, and everybody's a team. So when you start off in P28, you meet everybody and you meet your claims, you meet your underwriting assistants, you meet everybody that's involved with this process because we're all one big team. Um, P28 was a great experience. I think it taught me a lot more things in the professional world that I wasn't able to get, prior to. A lot of presentations, a lot of networking opportunities, and a lot of just learning from insurance round up. Some of you may already have that insurance background, but even with that, it's more like you're in person. It's more practical knowledge. It's not just being in a book in school all day. You're meeting people, you're in the office, you're connecting, you're meeting brokers, you're meeting our partners. So it was great. It was like it was almost like school in a sense, but it was work, it was work too. And I mean there are so many factors and everything that I learned into it. And I'm pretty sure you guys will have questions, but it's um it's broken down into phases. You have a learning phase, you start off and just more of just connecting with everybody, all teams. And then you also have that kind of school phase where whatever you learned, they're trying to figure out, okay, what do you know? What do you need help with? And how can you apply it? And once you get through that phase, I think phase three, kind of what I call it, is it's more like interviewing, or some people like to call it recruiting. So you have different lines that come in. Emily mentioned some of the lines, and Melanie will go over some of them later. So you have crime, you have DNO, which is directors and officers, you have safeguard, you have deadly weapons, you have property, you have cyber, which includes digital. All these different lines come in, and what you're doing is you're pretty much interviewing every week. But while you're doing this, even if there's a line that may not interest you the most and whatnot, it still gives you an insight on everything and how the company works, to an extent that I may not be a cyber underwriter, but if I meet someone that's just like, hey, like I'm cyber at another company, I can kind of understand and gauge, or, a little bit of the talk and what they do. So I think P28 makes you just a well-rounded person in general. And I always refer to it as a privilege, because I think what you have to realize, and when you go through the interview process, it is very rigorous, but you are getting an advancement that a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do. And so you want to take that and you really want to cherish this opportunity and take the most from it, because a lot of people are looking at you. You're the future of this company. And at Beasley, they'd love to invest and promote growth within. So, example, in the Chicago office, we probably have the highest rate of P28ers in the office, former P28ers, which was it's probably close to half, if we're being honest. And it's just a good thing because, of all ages, it just infuses every year younger talent, younger generation to what Beasley already has to offer. And I think that's what pushes innovation. And that's what Beasley pushes a lot, is innovation and being bold. Uh, so yeah, that's my experience, and whatever questions you guys will have, I'll be able to answer anything in detail.
And Danny, speaking of being bold, I know you'd mentioned you came from a forestry background. What drove your interest in getting into insurance, and how was that experience for you?
Yeah, so I felt like, some people may feel this way at some point in life, but I felt like I kind of peaked at my career, and I felt like I accomplished what I wanted to do, and that's a blessing. Um, Around that time, COVID hit, and COVID was a big thing that affected everybody. And you're trying to look, what am I going to do next? At the time, I was a 24, 25-year-old, and I felt like I was going through a midlife crisis. And that happens. You go through your mid 20s and you're trying to figure out what's going next, or even right after college, or even in college. You're like, what am I going to do? So, went to the University of Georgia. I had a friend that was in insurance, and he was like, you should get an insurance. And, the first thing that popped in my mind was like, I don't know if I want to do the generic, or you think of the state farms or everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think I was more so afraid. Sometimes you're afraid of what you don't understand. And at that time, being bold is a part of that, is taking that leap of faith. So I ended up doing it. I did my research on Beasley, which I encourage everybody to do. I was on Glassdoor. I was looking up CEO ratings. I was on the Beasley website where you can look up all of our lines and see how we do and what we offer and how we protect, you know. So I did a little bit of the research, and Beasley was such a great company. It had great reviews. It treated people well, but most importantly, it was giving the opportunity for me to grow. And a lot of some companies do that, but a lot of companies really, don't do that in quality time and investing into a younger person, and getting you ready and making sure that you're comfortable. So I end up applying to the P28 program, and I will say it was, like I said, it was very rigorous. It was not easy. You go through a lot of interviews and stuff like that. I won't give you guys any pointers, or won't spoil anything, but it was great. I think it pushed me, and I knew that while applying, I knew I was like, oh, this was probably one of the greatest things I could do, because I could just see from just the interviewing process and everything. I was like, it's going to push me. It's going to make me think a little different. Get outside the box. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. And Melanie, same question, because you changed, industries as well. What was that driving force for you?
Well, for me, the driving force was really looking for a role where I wanted to continue to have an impact. So I have a personal mantra where I believe that the only legacy in life that you really leave is people. And when I was at Amazon, I led a fantastic team, but the overarching impact that I felt like I was having was limited. As a manager of recruiters, I had the opportunity to actually help and develop those individuals, but there wasn't a broader scale impact. I wasn't actually interacting with candidates any longer, and I wasn't at a point where I was really providing an impact to the future of the organization per se. And so I just started looking at opportunities where I'd be able to go back into early careers, because for me, my interaction with individuals who are just starting out their careers is it's a value that I cherish, and it's a privilege for me to be able to help support and serve, educate and encourage. And so those are the things that are truly important to me. And I needed to find a role that allowed me to do that. The opportunity at Beasley presented itself, and it just seemed like a culmination of all of the things that I was looking for, in addition to a great organization that focused on in alignment with my values. So one of our big things is do the right thing. That is so critically important to me, where even if you make the wrong decision, if you make the wrong choice, if you don't have all of the information, as long as your focus was on doing the right thing, I am more than willing to jump in, help you recover from it, move forward. And that's the type of environment that I want to be a part of and know that the people around me also support and are engaged in. So that just right away stood out to me. And then everyone that I met and interacted with was just so welcoming and engaging. I, like Danny, hopped out there, did some research, did some checking to see kind of what the reviews were and what details were out there. I spent a lot of time actually connecting with a few folks on LinkedIn who worked at Beasley as well, just to get a bit more of a well-rounded picture. And the transition just was the right thing for me, tied to the role as well as tied to the organization. And then as I started doing a little bit more deep dive into insurance, it became so interesting, especially the specialty lines pieces and just knowing how different we operate. So, insurance just different being our tagline is truly something that resonated with me as well. And I think the final piece that really was just like, yes, this is definitely the right fit for me was as I was really looking into not just the product lines, but just kind of the overarching approach that the organization took with its people, I was able to easily kind of discern that, it really was a people-oriented organization that was really growing, as well as still had the stability of insurance. So, having worked in the tech sector, again, doing that during COVID, having worked in the energy sector, specifically oil and gas, I have been through 7 redundancies or reductions in force. And looking for an organization that was actually still growing, but also still had a more stable business model was also just an opportunity that I could not walk by.
Sorry, I had
Agreed.
to had to unmute, guys. And I did want to echo that too, when I was looking for what I wanted to do, because I came from staffing, which I don't know how many of you know much about it. It's quite different from internal talent acquisition. I was working a lot of hours, so I was looking for something that had a better work-life balance while also still being very stable. And like Mel said, when I started researching into Beazley, it was just so amazing to see some of the little things that they do, maybe big things actually. Like we have carbon allowances here, so we're making sure we're at the forefront of sustainability. Our Connecticut office keeps bees because we're trying to give back to like the local community and environment. And in that same vein, we do a really excellent job of reflecting the communities that we serve. I would say, that's never an end. There's never an end to that job because the communities we serve are always changing. But I know since 2019, we have gone up about 10% in our hiring of people of color, and our retention rates are even better. And we aim to have Black individuals be a quarter of that group as well. And we are very close to that goal and continuing that, which I just think is amazing. Um, so yeah, and I guess I want to talk a little bit now about the recruiting process between me and Melanie. So I'll let you go first, Melanie, if that's okay. But what do you look for in your early careers?
So, what I am really looking for are people who are curious and problem solvers. So, I want individuals who have a genuine interest in learning more, figuring things out, coming up with some new and creative solutions, and also aren't afraid to be bold. And so some of that may be asking questions or just, again, that curiosity, that inspecting more. Some of it may be outside of the box thinking and putting forward some solutions that may not be kind of the most common. Um, but also part of being bold is actually being able to admit, I don't know the answer to that question, but number one, I want to find out. Or number two, you know what? I'm going to, based upon what you're asking, my experience was this. If these things hold true, I would expect that this would be the solution. But I'm willing to do the legwork and figure out what works best. I'm also looking for individuals who are team players as well as leaders. And so, one of the big pieces that I've seen, especially within the context of our intern program as well as our P28 program, is that the folks that we have hired are leaders regardless of where they sit. And so it's owning the space that you're in and being a part of the team, making sure that the team is successful, and sometimes that means that one person is taking more of a leadership role tied to a particular set of circumstances. And other times there's someone else that may be that strength. And then other times I see them actually working together and encouraging each other, recognizing that someone may need a little bit more help in one area versus another, and just really being a part of that true engagement, that true commitment to work with one another. And really being a part of the opportunity that exists as far as being a part of a program and using that as a learning opportunity. So I look for all of those things that are not necessarily spelled out on the resume per se, But the reading between the lines, seeing the things that you've accomplished, seeing the things that you're involved in are the things that I'm really looking at. Because if you're a well-rounded individual, then typically you're going to be able to come in and be a well-rounded employee for the organization. And if I also see that there's just a little hints of personality, because quite frankly, I mean, Beasley has a lot of personality. Our everyone here you will meet has a lot of that, but when you look at the fact that our signature color is pink, how can you not know that there's a lot of personality within the organization? So,
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that, Melanie. And something, I guess a lot of the things are the same, what I look for when I'm hiring for some of my both entry level and my higher level roles. But like I said, it's the transferable things. It is my job to kind of look beyond what industry you've been in, and to understand what you can bring to the table. But there's definitely, I'll call it a hunger that you want to see in an interview, that yes, I want to do good work here. I want to do interesting things. And that's what becomes most important, is you wanting to be a part of this team, because we can't be successful as an individual. We are only successful together. And that's what I look for almost every position that I hire. Danny, how would you describe the people in the Chicago office? Because me and Mel sit on the East Coast over here instead.
The Chicago office, it's a family, and I started in the Atlanta office. So Atlanta and Chicago, it's a little bit similar. The thing in Chicago, we have a great presence, office presence. There's days where there may not be a desk because we like coming in the office. We did recently move up 2 floors and we got an upgraded space, which allows us to host brokers, host a little bit more events, larger events, because the Chicago office is popular. Only during the summer, though. Only during the summer. Once summer's over, we don't see anybody. But like I said, there's a large P28 presence here. So it feels like a family. And even outside of P28, it's a lot of execs that are here, a lot of people that are managers. And so you get the rub elbows. I think that's the term. With a lot of people that make important decisions. And that's across all offices, to be honest, in Beasley. Um, there's times in the summer I feel like execs are going through cycling through the offices 2, 3 times. So you're seeing your CEO in person, you're seeing Adrian Cox in person, and you're seeing everyone. And you don't feel like you're just another person at a job. And I had a little bit of experience before Beasley, and I've never worked in a space where an exec come by you and just, hey, you want to grab lunch? You just want to eat lunch while someone's in town? And people say, hey, everybody's friendly. And in terms of involvement and being engaged, I think Beasley just knows how to hire people really well, because everyone wants to take on a little bit more responsibility. Everyone wants to be active. We have so many committees and organizations, so many charities you can get involved with in and with outside of Beasley, with other insurance charities. In the Chicago office, I am on the environmental committee, and we do a couple of events. We do a plastics free July event where we have plastic free products, or products that are made out of reusable stuff. So there's so much to do at Beasley and so much to offer, and it speaks to the being bold, but the creative in all of our pillars is, they want us, it's not just something you put on a sheet or something you put on a website. Like, the activities and the involvement all speaks to what Beasley puts out there in terms of its pillars.
And for either of you, which whoever wants to jump in, is there anything that you want to highlight about your experience, or anything I didn't ask about that you'd love to touch on here?
Yeah, I'll highlight something. Uh, I think when it comes to P28, and just speaking to what Mel and Emily, what they say they look for in general, come hungry. Um, Beasley's a place where it's great work-life balance, and there's no other place that I've been personally that's been like that. But one thing I will say is we all remain hungry in some sort of fashion or way. We all do have aggressive goals. We want to hit these goals, and Beasley's a great company. If you do research, you'll see that every year we're achieving goals. We're trying to get to our certain mark in terms of, revenue and everything. But we're all team players. And one thing that you want to make sure, especially when you're doing the P28 program or doing anything else, you treat everybody fairly. And everybody at Beasley it's a team. Like I'm an underwriter. If something goes wrong, claims has to handle it in terms of a loss. Claims person is that's like my best friend to me. I talk to them. I'm learning from them. I'm learning, okay, maybe from this loss, maybe I could have looked at something a little bit better. Uh, Knock on wood, I don't have too many of those losses. But you learn something from everybody, and everybody is it's a presence that's in the office. And it was great because I could pick up the phone and just call and ask someone for help, whether no matter what team they're on and what they do. Uh, so what we're saying and what we're preaching is it's not just a smoke show. It's real life. And Beasley's it's a great company. P28 changed my life personally.
So the other thing that I would actually call out is the fact that your network is critical not only within the organization, but it's also critical outside of the organization. Um, I'm learning more and more just how small the insurance world actually is. So that's one aspect of things. So it's treating people fairly, treating people with respect, really being responsive and engaged with folks and showing a genuine interest. But even in the context of my role, I've been at Beasley for 2.5 months-ish, and it's been amazing to understand the number of folks that I actually have interacted with in previous roles, previous organizations, etc., that not only have heard of Beasley, but either are customers, clients, and or I still may run into them at recruiting events, recruiting for other organizations and things like that. Some of the folks that I recruited very, very early on in my career, these individuals are now, director level, VPs, etc. And so they've even reached out and said, "Oh yeah, this is where you landed. That's a great company. I know a lot about them. We actually work with them on this or that." And so I say all of that to say that the network that you even have now within the context of BYP, that's also going to be a fantastic network for you to continue to leverage the duration of your career, but that doesn't stop once you actually get the job. And so the reason I've actually been able to get so many things accomplished in the first 2 months that I've been here is because I've been able to lean on and been open, vulnerable, questioning, supportive of folks like Emily and Danny. I can't tell you how many times I've contacted Emily in the last month and said, "I need your help. Here's a last minute thing. Can you lean in and help me out?" And she has more than volunteered for that. I literally just met Danny 2 weeks ago, or not even, and I already know that I can call on him and have a list of things to call on him for as well. So know that network, leverage that network, be a active participant. So it's not always asking for, it's also showing up for those folks in your network as well.
Awesome, thank you. And one other thing that I wanted to highlight, just as we like talk about the relationships you make, obviously we have this amazing partnership with BYP. We were just there in London. I don't know if anybody who is here got to come see us at that fair. But we do a lot of partnerships to really show, not to show, like, because it's not for show, but to take part in the fact that we are like a global community. For instance, our TA team has just signed an agreement with a recruiting firm that specifically helps survivors of domestic violence. It not only helps them get jobs, but helps them with their resumes. We do some charity events with them. So it's just really, I've like Danny and Melanie have both said, I've never worked at a place that really did this much to be a part of their community in a way that is meaningful, truly. So it's just wonderful. And I know we're a little earlier than we originally said, Bunmi, but I think we're ready to take questions unless you guys have anything else you wanted to add in.
No, we're ready to hear from the group.
Think they're just going to put them in the chat and I'll probably read them out. Okay, this one probably for Danny, but I can definitely jump in. What is the career trajectory for an underwriter?
Okay, what's the career trajectory for an underwriter? Well, I'll put it in terms of how my trajectory was outside the program and how I view it currently. So with me having no insurance background, when I got into the program, I was totally locked in and interested on learning everything about insurance that I could possibly learn. All the words, different phrases that mean the same thing. That's three different words, like everything. So when you're in there, it's almost like you're a junior underwriter, but not really. You're not underwriting anything. You're just learning. So when you graduate from that program, you're more like that's when you're a junior underwriter and you start handling renewals more than new business. So the trajectory of underwriter is, I mean, Beasley is it's a little bit different than a lot of other places. A lot of places have more titles within it. They may have junior and like assistant, senior. We do have an assistant underwriter who they help us a lot. But in Beasley, your trajectory is it's more based off your book of business too, also how much you're writing, how much new business and renewals are coming in. So you're handling different accounts and territories, which, what does your team need help with when you're getting out? For me specifically, it was more of just like, how can I help and help my team? We had the Kansas City territory, which is my territory. It was a little uh, broken in a sense because there was people that had left that went on to new roles, and so they need someone to pick it up. So for me, I had to bridge that connection again with that territory, and now it's I'm writing more with them. So it's more of a you build your book of business. And as time goes on, that book is going to get larger and larger. And then your new businesses become your renewals. And you have your renewals, which are set, and then you get more new business. So right now I'm 2 years into underwriting. Uh, one day I would love to be a manager. It comes with a lot of responsibility, as I know. But at Beasley, we do have your underwriter. We do have an assistant manager under like underwriting role, and then we have our regional manager. So, one day I'll be a boss. But right now I'm still learning because when it comes to underwriting, you're kind of playing around with big lines and it's a lot of responsibility. So I think of it in the sense of I'm learning every day what's okay, what's not okay, what do I like to take a risk on, because you need to focus on your day to day. Because what I'm doing is potentially giving out 2.5, 5 million, 10 million, $25 million of coverage. So you need to focus on that every day. Make sure you focus on that, and then as that book of business builds, maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, like I'll be having $40 million book, and be managing a team. But when it comes to underwriting, I just think that you should always strive to, want to get, more responsibility as time goes on. But as the senior underwriters, especially in my region, always told me, you won't understand what's going on until like 6, 7 years. So, just learning every day like that.
Well,
Thank
and
you,
I
Danny.
would like to call out one thing, Emily. So he's talking about being a boss. He's also forgetting one of the other things that he does, which is he is also one of the mentors tied to our Project 28 program. And that comes with a lot of responsibility and leadership. And so, though he may still have questions and be learning things for the next several years, there is a nice, fresh cohort of people who are coming behind and looking at him as that leader, as that person to teach and train them, and they're already leaning in. So,
Yeah,
Oh,
I
excellent.
thank you. I thank you.
Love to hear it. And one thing I would add, this kind of Beasley specific, well, I guess it's across the board, but underwriting is quite a lucrative career if you're good at it. So trajectory as far as compensation is excellent. I see that obviously every day as I'm hiring them. So it's if that's something you're interested in, it's good. It's not too bad.
That's good.
Um, all right. This question, I think probably me, but you guys correct me here if I'm wrong. So the question is, which areas of insurance are growing the fastest right now, and how would someone new position themselves to get into those spaces? So from my point of view, I would say cyber is our fastest growing line. Because more cyber things are popping up every day, we're realizing we need more people to cover that. Now that AI is a thing, that's a whole other separate kind of underwriting that we need support on. So I see a lot of that. And as far as transitioning into it, like I said earlier, it kind of depends where you want to go with your career in that sense. But I hire a lot for underwriting assistants across the US and UK in cyber. So they like to see people, like I said, who've got some sort of experience working with customers. They have that hunger to go out and learn. And those are the biggest things that we want to see. Like if you have something cyber, that's super cool. Like if you're coming from an IT background, we take that into account for sure, but it's not necessary. And then the other, I'm trying to think, I think would probably be MAP, what we call MAP risk. Um, Political risk right now is in flux is how I would say it. So it's something that we're also taking a look at and having a political science background, things like that. That's kind of what we hope for. But again, none of that's like necessary. It's more your interest in getting into it. But you guys, I don't know if you've seen any other lines who are kind of growing quickly now.
Oh yeah, put that property plug in. Property's big too. Uh yeah, cyber, property, yeah, and the political risk, I feel like are like your three biggest ones. And also maybe as you guys will learn during time, market cycles. So different teams go through market cycles. Like the past 3 years, property, we had a super hard market cycle, which it helped, again, Beasley's a team. When one team market may be down, another team's market may be up. And when property was up in some other teams' market cycles, it was their downturn, which is a soft market. We were in a hard market. It was on us to be like, okay, it's time to put a little bit more on our back. Let's make sure we want to get the company up to that. And you kind of see as property, our market is softening a little bit. Another lines market is becoming harder. Um, so it's of course cyber, your political risk and property are your biggest ones, but also it's a market thing too. Depending on what's happening environmentally and politically and everything that's happening in the world and in our country, that could affect a certain line's market cycle.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Um, Sorry, Mel, I missed that. What'd you say?
Oh, no, I was actually fully aligned with all of that
Mm.
and just understand that we are always looking at and evaluating our book of business, what product lines we actually might be bringing to the table as new and different product lines. So there's more to come. There's always more to come on those pieces. One of the other ones that's also continuing to grow, but we'll see how that evolves over the next several years, is environmental.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good point. Thank you guys. This one's probably me too, but then the next one will definitely be you, Melanie. So this one, what are the prospects for someone that is content focused, e.g., content designer, technical writer, content strategist, etc.? So I think it just depends what it is you want to do. Like we do have a marketing team. There's actually two types of marketing we do. One would be like what you see, the people who chose the pink, who do the hat stands, who are doing our Beasley bus. And then we have like the broker marketing, which is more business development, I would say. As far as technical writing, so there's two types of things I hire for that. Again, I can just kind of depends what you want to do with it. I do our data team. So there is technical writing in the sense of like our standard operating procedures, but that usually comes with like a data governance background. Or we have wording specialists. Usually that is a law type of background. I believe they work a lot with the underwriters, Danny, making sure that our wordings are tight, to make sure that we are doing the best things we can within regulatory compliance. Um, but if I'm missing the mark there, you can go ahead and resubmit
Yeah.
another
Uh,
question too. Yeah. Okay, Mel, can you share more on the P28 program and how to apply?
Sure. So applications are actually open now. And you're able to apply directly through our Beasley Careers website. As I mentioned before, we have both internships as well as full-time opportunities in the P28 program. The program itself is actually, as Danny already explained, it's kind of an extensive, intensive program. And so the goal is for you to actually enter into the program and actually start with very strong foundations of insurance. So again, if that's not your background, we go through and we make sure that you have the opportunity to really have a strong foundation of understanding insurance, especially understanding specialty insurance and specialty risks. And so that tends to be about the first 12 weeks or so of the program. We even bring in external trainers in addition to making sure that you have resources, kind of essentially kind of a textbook, just like when you're in school. And so making sure that you have all of that at the end of that 12 weeks, we actually do an assessment in order to make sure that you do have that strong foundation in order to move you into the kind of that next phase of the program where you are learning how we engage with our brokers, how you engage with our partners, how you do a bit of the sales piece, which I won't say is it's not the typical thought process that you might have with sales. This is where the curiosity, the engagement, the meeting people, the building relationships and building networks, that's our form of sales. And then from there, the final piece of the in-class program or the Atlanta-based portion of the program is really the product line training. And so that's when you're learning about, you don't get to learn about all of our product lines. We do have just so very many, and there's a lot going on. But we actually have our volunteers from within the product lines actually coming in either virtually or physically, and they're actually spending time with the cohort, teaching them about the product line, what they do, why they do it, how they assess risks, just all of the ins and outs to make sure that everybody kind of has a firm foundation. If it's a product line where we know that we're not going to be doing any hiring, so for instance, our mergers and acquisition product line, that when you have to be a lawyer to be a part of that team. So that team is not one that hires from our program, but they still come in and they explain what they do, why they do it, because it's just that important for anyone going through the program to have a well-rounded picture of Beazley and also be able to refer business, understand what we're doing, and just feel as a cohesive part of the Beazley community. Following all of that, then there's the placement process that takes place. And so once we're placing individuals, we're really putting you in a place where you're going to be able to use those skills that you have developed, as well as your innate skills that you already have, and match those with the business unit where we feel you can be most successful. Because the entire goal of the program is to put you into a place where you are going to be successful and thrive. And that can be in any of our 12 US based cities. So East Coast, West Coast, South, North, we've covered it all. And that's what we ultimately look to do, is place you into a team in one of those locations where you are going to be supported and be able to thrive and build a successful career. And as kind of time goes on, you don't get rid of us that easy from an early careers perspective. We still stay tied in. We're checking in on you. We try and make sure that the alumni network is strong. In addition to that, as you go through your career, we call you back for all types of things, including being a mentor like Danny is, including actually teaching some of the training classes and things like that. The current cohort, they're actually learning from a gentleman today who actually was part of season 2.
Cool.
So a reach back for sure. but you just become kind of that committed to the group. And so we try and structure the program to allow for that. And that interview process that Danny mentioned, we're looking to see your problem solving skills, your team building, your drive, your initiative. We're looking at all of those things. So you apply, and we're looking at each resume, reviewing that piece, and the folks that we move forward, they go through an initial interview with an underwriter. If you're demonstrating kind of the preliminaries of that skill set, it's usually about 30 minutes. Then from there, you move to the assessment center. And in the assessment center, that's when you go a bit more in depth, and we actually put you through experiences where we're actually observing you and seeing you team together. We're seeing you present. You're actually kind of doing sample sizes of the work that you actually would be doing, but it's obviously on a caliber that you would be capable of in a short period of time without that background of insurance knowledge.
Great, thank you. And could you touch on the UK process? Because I know it's slightly
I
different than our
sure
US.
can. So
Yeah.
the UK process is actually quite different. So in the UK, we actually have a variety of different roles that we actually hire for from an early careers perspective. So it's also we have claims, we have finance, we have HR, which is our team is called people and sustainability, but that's essentially kind of the common human resources function. We also have obviously underwriting. And so we have actuarial, data science. So data, we have most of those groups. IT also has early careers hiring. When we actually go to market for those, which those positions will officially launch later this week. So Thursday is when you're actually able to access all of those. They do change a bit year to year. And part of that change is because we want to make sure that the business is actually able to absorb and support the hires that we have. So it's tied to our demand planning. But ultimately, those roles are going to be based in London or Birmingham. And when you go into that process, you actually go through an application. It is not even a CV based process. It really is one where we're trying to get to know you. So part of it is indicating your interest. And then from there, you're answering some questions so that we understand a bit more about you. There's a video assessment. So there's a video in which you're asked some questions. You actually will record your responses, and we're looking at all of those details. And from there, we actually narrow down the pool and move forward with folks to an assessment center. It is similar to the one that I described in the US, but it is a bit different entirely because we're talking about so many different focus areas. So each assessment center varies depending on the focus area. Once that is indeed complete, we extend offers, and we have our folks start either in April or September. Again, I mentioned the locations, and so we actually have folks we pull them together. So we pool both groups, regardless of where you're working together, to go through a great onboarding and induction week. You also get a chance to meet and interact with kind of the cohort that is either directly behind you. So if you start in April, you'll meet the September hires. If you start in September, then you meet the April hires, but there's opportunities to create that network, create that community. And after you've gone through kind of your induction week, we still have development opportunities, we still have programming, but ultimately we're actually placing you within the context of your business unit, and that business unit is responsible for your continued development, be it a rotational program, again, each one is different, or be it kind of a permanent placement where you're actually learning on the job as you go. But we support all of that and also stay engaged with that entire population as well.
Thank you so much. Hopefully this is, well, wait, I think we have time probably for two more because one of them is definitely probably just me. It's asking us if there's opportunity for senior finance professionals. Short answer, yes. There are definitely opportunities. If you go on our website, there is a button for like careers. This year in the US, I've hired three senior finance roles, an accountant, a controller, and a head of North American reporting. And then in our London and Birmingham offices, there are a bunch. There's probably 10 open right now. All right, maybe this is our last question, maybe. Okay, so my background isn't directly in insurance, but I do have experience in another sector. How should I frame my transferable skills on my CV so they're still attractive to employers like Beazley? So I'll jump in, but if you guys think of anything, definitely feel free. Um, oh, two more questions, please. Okay.
Yeah, keep them
So
coming. All right.
I would say what's listed on the job description is probably what I'm looking to see. So if it says something like 5+ years experience managing a team, which I don't think we can't say 5+ years in the UK or EU. So let's just say years of experience at managing a team. Just make sure that's highlighted in a way that's easy to see. At Beazley, we do not use AI to comb through resumes. So you're never going to be rejected on something like that. I take the time to go through every single resume that comes in. If you think it's something that's kind of a stretch, but still doable for you, add a cover letter with your resume. I will read it. Every recruiter here will read it. Um, Honestly, the other transferable skills, a lot of them are pretty straightforward. Like for some of our roles, it's Excel. Make sure that's on the resume. Working in a team, make sure there's a bullet point that really shows that. It sounds simple, but you'd be surprised some of the things that people leave off when they have that opportunity to show what they can do.
I would actually add in the other pieces is that we know that we're in the age of AI and being able to leverage that and utilize that in conjunction with job descriptions, etc. The other piece that's also critical when you're working through your resume and trying to present yourself in the best light is make sure that you're still genuinely presenting yourself. Because we do run into scenarios where individuals submit a resume that has been reworked from an AI perspective. But when we start having those conversations, that interview piece, and folks aren't able to speak to the experience or give more detail tied to the things that are on their resume, it becomes very apparent. And that is not the brand that you want to put forward, especially in an organization such as Beazley, because we do take such a connection point to the candidates. Emily, as an example, is going to remember that type of conversation, that type of interaction, potentially a year, 6 months, whatever the time frame may be down the road. And that is going to be a factor that is considered when it comes to your consideration for something else. So just make sure that you present yourself with genuine authenticity for who you are, what you represent, and most importantly, what you want and can bring to the table.
Yeah, excellent point. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so I think this is the last one. So I think all of us can answer this. I'll just go first because I think you guys will have more interesting ones than me. So it says, looking back at when you started out, what's one thing you wish you'd known about working in insurance? Um, I wish I knew how interesting it was. I know how like silly that sounds, but in the US especially, I think of insurance as healthcare, and I've never really known anything else. So to know that this much cool stuff goes into it has just been incredible. And I wish I learned sooner because I would have joined a lot longer ago.
I would say the same. I know that sounds like a cop-out answer, but 2 months into it, it has been some very, very interesting things to learn and see. And I never thought about all of the things that insurance touches and just the skill sets that are required, just the problem solving, the risk analysis, all of those pieces, as I just had no idea. So I would have loved to have known a bit more and considered it much earlier.
Ooh, I will say, Emily, the interesting part, because we do write in property, commercial property, for example, we insure a lot of cool things. Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, where the Falcons play. We have an HVH team that insures a lot of celebrities' houses and stuff too. I won't speak on the celebrities, but I guess there's one thing that uh, I guess just it's the networking and how nice the people are. You know, even with my brokers, no matter the market cycle, I think there was times I'm more social, but there was times I was nervous. I was like, oh, like I don't know this word. Like I mentioned earlier, there's three ways to say one word. It still surprises me to this day. I guess I wish I knew a little bit earlier that it would be a smoother and easier transition than I anticipated. Um, I just think that it's a welcoming community, and like we're all talking about, it's a very small community too. So your name gets around. That's one thing I knew early for sure. In terms of people tell you like once if you do something in good standing, it goes around. If you do something in bad standing, yeah, it'll go around. But I was a little nervous about learning all the technical words, the technical part of it. And then I get into it and I'm like, no, it is technical, but it's not as technical as I thought. At one point I thought I was going to have to walk around with an insurance encyclopedia, because I was like, I just don't know some of these words. But what I was doing, and want to speak to more just about how Beasley's connecting and how people are and seeing people in the office. I was listening to people's phone calls, because we have an open office environment. And so I have an underwriter next to me, the way he is able to negotiate or the way he's able to put his foot down or certain things like that when it comes to coverages and things like that. That's how I've been able to learn. And I think I was so a little worried about like, how am I going to be able to transition to this? And beyond asking questions, just being observant. Didn't know that all of this would just be around me and that it would just at some point just go into my brain.
Yeah, thank you so much, Danny. And sorry, there is one more question, and you guys let me know if you have any thoughts here, but this is something I do day in, day out. So the question is, if someone has been out of the workforce for some time for childcare or job losses, etc., what advice would you give to that individual to still be able to show their strengths and be a potential candidate for Beasley? My first initial reaction is I would never take that as a reason not to talk to somebody. One of the things that I've really loved about Beasley is that they know that you are a person first. Um, like of course we get paid to work, it is important, but family has to come first. If something like that happens, whether you are taking time off to care for your children or if you were laid off, I think luckily one of the few things that came out of COVID is that people are a lot more understanding about job losses now. And that's something that personally, as a recruiter, I take that back to the hiring managers. My job is to, yes, evaluate you on your skills, but also fight for you if I genuinely think you are the right fit. So I also think childcare is a full-time job. You are managing a home, you are managing a lot of schedules, I'm assuming. So that shows a lot of grit and determination to me. Um, so I would just be as much as you're willing to share, like upfront and honest about the situation you were in. And we'll always do our best to find something for you if it makes sense.
Yeah, I will. I'll piggyback on that. Like I said, during COVID, I think we all experienced something. No matter what age you were, no matter where you were working, we all experienced a loss in certain ways. For me, personally, before I joined P28, I went through a loss. I lost my father during COVID. It was tough, but it gave me a lot of hunger, a lot of motivation, even more than I ever had. I also, I had a job before then. I wasn't the happiest at that job, and that's why I was looking for different things to do. And I take that in life now, especially I look at where I'm at, and it's okay to talk about it. It's okay. That was one thing I mentioned in terms of like I want to be to go to a company that could support me, could understand where I'm coming from, because there's a lot of places that to be honest, don't really care. And I've experienced that, and I've experienced the hurt that has come from that. And that's why it was very important for me to find a place where it make me feel comfortable. I feel like I'm treated as a person, as family. I'm very family oriented, and being honest, and you don't have to share any whole life or anything, but it does give someone a glimpse of how hungry and motivated you are, because I'm just going to be honest. I came in and I treated it not like my life was on the line, but I treated it as like, oh, this is my one opportunity to 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 take a different route in life at a younger age, and really try to figure out what I want to do. Because there's a lot of time I didn't know what I want to do. Some of us are like, our dream job is not to work, have millions of dollars, and lay on the beach. Um, but we all go through these losses, and Beasley's so understanding of things and so supportive in so many different ways in terms of how certain benefits and things that Beasley offers. But it's okay to be upfront, depending on how much you want to share, because it's so important to have a why. And I want to repeat that. What is your why? Um, that's something that has pushed me through Beasley. I think that's something that's been able to afford me of opportunities is knowing what my why is. Why am I doing this? What is my purpose for what I'm doing? It's bigger than me, it's for my family. It could be, for your family, it could be for your team, but knowing your why is something that'll help so much, especially when it comes to the interview process and everything with Beasley. Because I tell you, I don't know how Beasley does it, but they hire so good. I like
Thanks,
everyone,
Danny.
I swear. So know your why. And it's important to share your why. So someone else can know, well, why are you doing this? Why are you interested? Why do you want this opportunity so much?
Thank you so much for sharing that with us too, Danny. And I think that's it for time. I know we went a bit over. Is there anything else before we sign off?
No, that is all. Thank you so much, guys. This was an amazing session. We had a lot of people in the chat talking about. Thank you so much for the answers, especially the underwriting question. It really drew like a career path. So that was really great. Thank you so much to our speakers. I know everyone had a great time.
Thank you so much for hosting us. We so appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was
Thanks,
nice talking to everybody.
everyone. Everyone, take care.
Thank you so
Perfect.
much.
Yeah, thank you guys.